welcome back everyone. Welcome to Pandemic Yoga, as I'm calling it. And today's class is a restorative yoga class. So in yoga, I think that there's basically two groups of people. There's the group of people that wants to do chaturanga and chair and stand on their head and sweat. And I'm definitely in that category. And then there's the second group of people who wants to come to a yoga class and have adult nap time, which is awesome, but I'm not very good at that. So today we are going to be practicing adult nap time. And I have to say, it's a challenge for me. So it's a challenge for me to teach this class. And I think it's a good challenge. It's a way for me to slow down and relax and find that that's okay. You don't have to be, running and hitting the pavement and killing your body all the time. Although I will admit, I did cardio before this, so I just can't quite break the habit. Anyways, so I hope that you enjoy this, and like I said, it's a more challenging class for me to teach, so if you have feedback, I would absolutely love to hear it. We're going to start today with meditation. So I want you to go ahead and find a comfortable position, something that you can hold for a long time. I don't care if you're in hero's pose, seated, lying down, standing up, whatever you can hold and be quiet and calm for an extended period of time, about 15 minutes or so. All right. I have my fun blocks back today, or my fun yoga props. So if you don't have props, real yoga props, you can get your toilet paper for blocks, a tie or something for your strap, and then I have cat food for my bolster. All right, so go ahead and settle in and close your eyes. And we're going to take a couple of just normal big breaths. And if there's a particular yoga mudra that you really like in meditation, maybe the thumb and forefinger, or maybe you just like to feel the breath, you can place a hand over your heart and over your belly, feeling the breath, or you can just relax with the hands wherever they feel comfortable. So we're going to start with that alternate nostril breathing that we practiced on Sunday. So again, make a hang 10 sign with your hands and then pop out that ring finger. And you're going to start by placing the thumb underneath your right nostril. Inhale through the left. Hold it. And then exhale out through the right, covering with your ring finger the left nostril. Inhale. Exhale through the left. And we're going to do that 4 more times to prepare us for meditation. Try to hold the breath for a moment when you inhale, holding the body full of breath, exhaling it out, and holding the body empty of breath. One more cycle, both nostrils. Go ahead and release the hand back down, finding the yoga mudra of your choice or just relaxing the hands to the thighs. Breathing normally, keeping the eyes closed and shifting into a meditation. Now, for a lot of us, we maybe don't quite have a clear picture of what meditation looks like. So I'm going to guide you through a few of my favorites. We're going to start just by being aware of your surroundings. So starting with your eyes. Your eyes are closed, right? So your sense of sight should be somewhat limited, but you should still notice that. Maybe there's some bright stars behind your eyes. Maybe you're completely at peace. Maybe the eyelids are twitching a little bit. There's no right or wrong, just kind of notice what's there. Shift your focus to your nose and your sense of smell. What do you notice here? Maybe you have some incense burning or a candle burning and it smells really good. Maybe your family's cooking dinner and you can start to smell the different spices that they're using. Maybe the smells aren't so pleasant, and that's okay too. Maybe you have a kid running around with a dirty diaper, you have a stinky dog. There's no right or wrong, just notice. And if you have a reaction to it, take a split moment to acknowledge that reaction, whether it's good or whether it's bad, and then move on. So now taking your focus to your hearing, to your ears. What do you notice? If your family is making dinner, are they clanging pots and pans? Is somebody chopping against a cutting board? Is there traffic around your house? Is there a dog barking? Maybe the cat is scratching the furniture. Nothing that you need to do about anything, just notice it. And if you do have a reaction, take a split moment to acknowledge the reaction and then move on. There's nothing that needs your attention right this moment. Now bring your focus to your mouth, to your sense of taste. What's going on? Do you have a metallic taste? Did you maybe recently eat a piece of fruit and you have a citrus, acidic taste in your mouth? Go ahead and taste your lips. If you're like me and you did a little cardio before class today, is it salty? Did you sneak a little chocolate, a little stress chocolate, and it's sweet? Do any of those tastes bring up any kind of an emotional reaction? If they do, acknowledge it and let it go and move forward. Now finally come to your sense of touch. I happen to have my palms down on the thighs, so I can feel the heat in between the thighs and the palms. Maybe you're sitting cross-legged and there's a teeny bit of pressure somewhere. Maybe one leg on top of the other is putting pressure. Or maybe you feel the ankle bones against the floor. What are you sitting on? Is it smooth? Is it bumpy? Is it soft? Is it firm? Just notice all of those sensations. Nothing is right or wrong. You're just noticing them. And again, if emotions are connected to noticing something, there's no right or wrong emotion. Acknowledge it and move forward. We're not going to dwell on any of the emotions. It's okay to be aware of them, but we're going to move forward. Come back to one of those senses, whichever one you found most interesting, or maybe whichever one you found most distracting. And notice if there's anything new. For me, I'm noticing there's some new sensations on my arms, a little itchy, a little bit of a breeze. Nothing I need to do, but interesting. Now let go of the 5 senses and just breathe. Notice where the breath is. Do you have a tendency to fill the chest? Do you have a tendency to breathe with the belly? When you inhale, do you feel an expansion? And when you exhale, do you feel a collapse or do you feel strength? If you notice you're breathing predominantly in your belly, what temperature do you feel there? Is it heat? Did you have a stressful day? Maybe there's a little flip-flop in the belly. If you are feeling a little bit of heat, roll that heat up the spine and start to notice how the breath feels in the chest. Is the breath hotter or cooler? What color is the breath? Is it a red or an orange? Blue or purple? Maybe the color changes depending on the inhale or the exhale. And now move your focus to the entry and exit point of your breath, your nostrils. What does it feel like when it enters the nose? What does it feel like when it exits? Generally, the air is going to be cooler on the way in. And as you heat it in the body, it's going to feel a little hot as it comes out the nose, maybe heating up the upper lip. Does it feel itchy? Do you have maybe a stuffed up nose and it's hard to breathe through the nose? 5 more breaths, noticing temperature, noticing color, if you associate color with temperature, noticing any sensations, expansions, tickles, anything connected to the breath. One more inhale. And one more exhale. Feel free to flutter the eyes open, or you can keep them closed. You're more than welcome to keep them closed throughout today's practice. But I want you to go ahead and get off of your bolster or your blocks. And go ahead and come into child's pose. But a nice relaxing recovery child's pose. So the knees are wide, the chest rests in between the thighs. And if you want, you can either place the hands under your forehead, or if you have the flexibility, bring the forehead to the ground and relax the backs of your hands next to your heels. And feel the breath in the back. With every inhale, the space between your ribs expands. And every exhale, the hips release towards the heels and the chest falls a little bit closer towards the ground. Go ahead and start to walk the hands out in front of you. And just gently push into the fingertips, shifting your hips a little closer to the heels. Feeling length in the sides, along the sides of the ribs. On your next breath, walk your fingers just a couple inches farther forward and then shift up either onto your hands or onto the elbows and extend one leg behind you and roll the ankle out as you push the back of the knee towards the sky. So sometimes being collapsed in child's pose can be uncomfortable on our knees. So extend them back out, let the blood go back to the knee. Go ahead and switch sides. Roll however feels good. Maybe it's the ankle, maybe it's the toes. And then bring that knee back. And if you want, you can pad up the knees, grab your 2 blocks, and extend out into puppy pose. So with the hands on the blocks, you have a little bit more openness in the chest. If this is too much for you, simply keep the hips high and pop up onto the fingertips rather than using the two blocks. Notice the rise and fall of the belly. Expansion in the belly as you inhale, exhale, pulling the belly button towards the spine. This is one of many great stretches if you are working from home and you're hunched over a computer to help counteract that poor posture. As hard as we try, anytime you're in front of a computer, you'll still struggle with having good posture. And then go ahead and walk yourself back up onto all fours. Inhaling one hand up towards the sky and then tucking it underneath you and resting down onto that shoulder. Maybe the side of your head touches. Maybe you're completely on the shoulder. You can keep that opposite hand in front of you for support. Hi, buddy. On your next exhale, come back to center. Inhale, opposite hand comes up to the sky first, and then gently tuck it under. Oh, hi, sweet kitty. One more breath, and then come back to center. Go ahead and release the mat if you happen to curl it up for that extra cushion, and bring yourself down onto the stomach. We're going to start with the hands wide, elbows up. Inhale, take a little baby cobra, and then exhale back down. Inhale back up, but this time looking over one shoulder. And back down. Inhale, opposite shoulder. And back down. Now go ahead and grab your strap and make sure you have enough room to be able to extend your arms all the way out in front of you. Bring your strap, and you can come up, engaging some of the back, or you can stay rather low. But either way, with wide hands, you're going to start to work the hands behind you and find that sticky point. So for me, it's right about there. And just notice how it feels. And then come back down. Inhale back to the front. And then just like we did with Cobra, try one hand at a time. Kind of rolling through. Giving yourself a little bit of a warm up in the shoulders. Relaxing for a moment. And then coming up one more time, and if you'd like just a little bit more, you can lift with the feet as well. A few times through the movement, just noticing how the shoulders feel, finding that little sticky point, making sure you don't have too much tightness on your strap. Otherwise, you could create too much of a stretch and hurt yourself. So make sure you have enough length that you can easily roll through the joint without injury. You can go over there. There you go, good kitty. So go ahead and release back down, release your strap and bring your hands to a T and roll over onto one side. We'll roll this way first. So that hand is directly behind you. Other hand can be in front of you for support. If this is uncomfortable on your head, grab a block or your bolster. Give yourself a little pillow. And then if you want more, you can take that top foot and maybe bring it behind you. So this is a pretty intense shoulder opener, but it's really, really good for you if you are, again, working from home and sitting in front of a computer. If you want even more, you can take that opposite hand, the top hand, and maybe float it behind you, reaching for the other. But what I don't want to see is a collapse in that shoulder in order to reach. Try to keep the crease of the elbow open so that you're continuing to stretch through the chest as well. Oh, belly rolls. You're so cute. Bring the floating hand back to the ground and gently roll yourself back to flat. Push yourself up just a little bit. Take that back hand and draw it underneath you, just resting over the shoulder. So now we're opening the back of the shoulder, doing a counter stretch to that heart opener. Go ahead and prop yourself back up. Bring your hands back to a T and then gently roll to the other side. Again, find a comfortable place for your head. Maybe use a block for a pillow. Maybe add a little intensity by bringing the top foot behind you. And then if you want more, you can reach behind with the floating hand. Just breathe and feel the release of all the tension from hunching over your laptop. One more breath. And then go ahead and bring the floating hand back to the ground, roll back onto your stomach. Prop up just enough to slip that hand underneath and then relax onto the shoulder. So you're kind of making an L with the hands or with the arms, and you can just relax the chin on your shoulder, or if you'd like a block, you can put a block underneath your forehead. Go ahead and push up to release that hand, and then grab your strap one more time, finding nice wide arms on the strap, and lift up and over, and just notice that sticky point. Does it feel any different after you've stretched the shoulders and the heart? Did you happen to have just a little less length on your strap? Again, just like meditation, there's no right or wrong. It's just interesting. Notice it and then move on. There's no judgment. It's just curiosity. Good. Go ahead and take that strap to one side and come up onto the elbows in Sphinx first. Opening up the chest, but keeping the abs engaged to support the lower back. And then take one hand and bring it to a 45-degree angle. And you can either hook your strap around your foot and start to pull the foot forward, or you can grab with your hand, rolling the fingertips towards the toes and putting a little bit of pressure on the toes. Now, this is a restorative class, so the focus here is on opening up the quad, using your strength to create the stretch. So if you don't have the openness to do this in either your shoulder, your chest, or the front of your thigh, then grab that strap to create the tension. Continue to keep the abs in so we're not dumping into our lower back. And breathe. One more breath on this side. And then go ahead and release. Relax that foot. Maybe give yourself a little hip hop. And then find the arm at a 45-degree angle on the other side. Picking up that back foot and either using your strap or rolling your fingertips towards the toes to push the heel towards the hip. Man, you are just so very helpful today. Yeah, hey buddy. Three more breaths. Making sure that the focus is on the stretch and the release, not necessarily any physical power or pressure. One more breath. And release. Come back to Sphinx. And again, give yourself a little hip hop on that side. So carefully push yourself up onto all fours. If it feels good, go for a few cat-cow stretches. And right away, we're gonna go ahead and roll over our ankles and sit back onto our backs. Goodness gracious, your hair's everywhere. Always interesting to do yoga with the kitty cat. All right, so once you're on your backs, go ahead and start by bringing both knees to your chest and give yourself a rock side to side. Feel the massage in the lower back. And then keep one knee towards the chest and extend the opposite leg, trying to press the back of the knee into the ground. So that leg is somewhat active, but the activeness is not trying to create strength so much as you're trying to create openness in this hip flexor. And then take the floating knee and let it go out a little bit and pull the kneecap up towards the shoulder on the outside of the rib cage. So you're really opening up the back of the hip and the glute. If you feel any tension in the front of the hip because you're squeezing into that part of your hip socket, try squeezing with the abs, which will give you a little bit more openness in the hip and allow you to squeeze further without pinching. So taking the same hand as that foot, go ahead and grab the toe in a yogi toe lock and pull the foot up so that it's parallel with the sky for half happy baby. And if you want, maybe give yourself a little bit of a rotation in the hip to see how it feels. Maybe it feels better wider. Maybe it feels better almost directly with the kneecap over the rib cage. Again, no right or wrong. Just notice how it feels. And find either that sticky place, like we talked about when we were going through the shoulder circles, to work on that sticky place and let it open up, or just find a really feel-good, happy place. One more breath. And then bring that foot across the body and try to give yourself a hug by wrapping the opposite crease of the elbow in the foot and then the crease of the elbow in the kneecap, and give that shin a little bit of a hug towards the chest. It's okay if you reach up and engage the abs in order to give yourself the hug. And then release the hug, and as you roll down, pick up the long leg so that the knee comes right underneath the ankle, and then reach your hands through and either grasp around the back of the thigh or around the shin. And release and pull the leg a little closer to your chest, getting a stretch in your hip and your glute. Making sure that this knee doesn't collapse, it stays pushed out. So if you actually want to take that same hand and push the knee out just a little bit, again, listening to your body, this can be a really intense hip opener. So if it's too much for you, don't put that extra pressure on the inside of the thigh. And notice as you breathe the release in the hip. And notice any emotions. So we tend to store a lot of stress and a lot of emotions in our hips. So maybe you had a really hard day. I mean, we've all had a really hard week. And maybe some of that stress bubbles up, but that's okay. Notice it and let it go. One more breath. Keep the ankle on the knee and release the foot to the ground. Hands come to a T, and then you're just going to tilt that knee over so that you're in a very, very gentle twist. But rather than being a really deep twist on your spine, notice it more through your hip and maybe your lower back. Just maybe a little of the lower back. If you'd like a cervical twist, you can look in the opposite direction. We've talked about this a couple times this week, but as you breathe, when you exhale, allow the breath to squeeze out and the navel or the belly button to roll more towards the ceiling. So you're working with your exhale to create the twist rather than trying to use any external forces to put pressure to create the twist. A good example of creating a twist with pressure is when we did those prayer twists in crescent pose. It was nice to have a little leverage with the elbow, but it's also nice to let go of the leverage and just use the exhale. On your next exhale, come back to center, and then bring both knees towards your chest. Give yourself another rock side to side. Come back to center, extend the opposite leg, and let the opposite floating knee come wide to the outside of your rib cage, squeezing that knee up towards the shoulder. Stop as often as you want to give your kitty or your doggy some loving. And then again on this side, feel free to do the yogi toe lock, or if this is too intense, you can always grab your strap and wrap it around the foot for your half happy baby. Yes. Hi. Yeah. We're doing the yogas. And like on the other side, maybe give yourself a little bit of rotation in that hip to find the happy place or the sticky place. Releasing if you find the sticky place, or enjoying if you find a happy place. No right or wrong. You don't have to push through the sticky place. We're not trying to go super deep into any particular pose. We're just trying to notice how things feel and let our breath and time give us release. Go ahead and bring that foot across the body. Again, rising up a little bit if you need to hook the foot in the elbow crease and the knee in the other elbow crease. Give yourself a hug with the shin. And then release back down, keeping that shin parallel to the end of your mat and picking up the opposite knee underneath the ankle, reaching for the back of the thigh or the shin and gently pulling the whole unit towards your chest. So the more pressure you put, of course, the more you will feel this in your hip and your glute of the top leg.
and then release the hands. Drop the foot to the ground so that the kneecap is still pointed to the sky, and then roll the entire unit over to one side. Hands come to a T, and maybe roll the head to the other side. So a very, very gentle twist. Feeling it more in your hip and maybe your lower back, less up the middle and upper part of your back. One more breath, and then exhale, everything comes back to center. Release the ankle from the knee and wrap around the knees one more time. Coming up and pressing the forehead towards the knees. And then release back down. Grab your strap once more. And so for those of you that have really tight hamstrings, you might want to keep one knee bent and pointed towards the sky. For those of you that have much more open hamstrings, then go ahead and extend that leg out, just like we did before, pressing the back of the knee towards the ground to create a little bit of openness in this hip flexor. And then take your strap and bring it around the foot, extending that leg. And at first, I just want you to use the weight of your arms to allow that foot to start to drop towards the head or maybe over the head. And then with your breath, try some different variations with the foot. Notice how the stretch changes when you point the toes versus when you flex the toes. Both are stretching out the hamstring, but one is going to feel distinctly different than the other. And again, it might feel good, it might feel bad. Everyone is going to be different. So find whichever version you prefer. Find that sticky spot or find that sweet, happy spot. So transferring now your strap into the same hand as that foot, whatever you need to do to make sure it doesn't slip. Opposite hand goes out to a T and start to open up the leg without the opposite hip coming up off the ground. You want to keep that hip glued to the ground. So I want you to notice a couple of things. How does it feel in the hamstring of the floating leg? How does it feel in the inner thigh? Now, crazy question, how does it feel in the hip of the anchored leg? Do you feel a little bit more openness in that hip as well? I love this stretch because, of course, it gets into your hamstrings, and of course, most of us have tight hamstrings and a tight lower back, and so stretching them helps us feel good in everyday life. But most of us also sit all day. And so getting that stretch in this hip flexor is also really, really good. One more breath. And on your exhale, bring it back to center. Switch hands once again. And first, I want you to just pull the foot about 4 to 6 inches across the body, and then maybe 2 inches up towards your opposite shoulder. So this hip doesn't come up off the ground, but now you're feeling a really intense part of your hamstring that most of us don't attempt to stretch, that outside part of the hamstring getting into the outer thigh and hip. And this is so good if you have a tight IT band, if you have sciatica, anything along those lines. It could be very uncomfortable at first, but you'll notice a really big increase in the amount of relief that you find in your day-to-day life. So one more breath here. And if you want, feel free to stay here. Maybe this feels so good you don't want to move, or maybe you want to go ahead and let that hip lift off the ground and roll into a much deeper twist. Relaxing the floating foot to the ground, and then starting to press the shoulder towards the ground. This is where your breath is going to come in very handy. So inhaling, and on your exhale, squeeze the belly button towards the sky. And that will allow you to rotate more in the spine and release the shoulder to the ground. One more breath in this twist. And then soften the knee of the floating leg and gently roll yourself back to center. Extend the foot without your strap and see how it feels. Do you have a little bit more openness in the back of the leg? Maybe it's really easy to get the heel towards the sky, whereas before you'd be lucky to get right about here. Or maybe you'd be lucky to straighten the leg. So go ahead and release that foot down now. And again, if your hamstrings are really tight, you can always keep the knee pointed towards the sky. And wrap your strap around the opposite foot. Starting with, again, just a little bit of weight. The weight of your arms, pulling it down. My arms are not engaged. I'm not using my biceps to pull. I'm just literally using the weight of my arms and gravity. If you haven't already, try playing with the toes on this side. How does the stretch change when you point versus flex the toes? Is there one you prefer over the other, or maybe you just like the idea of hanging and letting gravity do the work? When you're ready, bring the strap into the same hand as the foot. Opposite hand comes to the ground to help you anchor and allow that foot to float open. Notice the stretch in the hamstring. Notice the stretch in the inner thigh. And of course, notice the stretch in the hip flexor of the grounded leg. Two more breaths here. And then go ahead and bring the foot back to center. Switch your strap to the opposite hand. And first bring it 4 to 6 inches across the body and maybe 2 inches up, so that you're trying to align the big toe with your opposite shoulder. And again, notice that in that outside part of the hamstring and the outer thigh and hip. Really, really great stretch if you do a lot of running or a lot of spinning. Or if you've had any tightness or injuries, like I said, in the IT band. You can keep holding it here, or you can go ahead and let that foot start to roll over. If you don't like the idea of bringing the toe all the way to the ground, you can prop it up with your block or your bolster, or you can let the foot come all the way to the ground and start to use your exhales to release the shoulder towards the ground by squeezing the belly button, supporting the spine, and allowing that twist. One more inhale. And on your exhale, soften the knee and gently roll back to center. Place both feet on the ground, knees towards the sky, and grab your bolster, bringing it underneath the hips. And we're going to finish with feet towards the sky. If you want, you can do feet up against the wall so that you have a little bit more support. And we're just going to hang out here for about 60 seconds. Letting all the blood flow in this inversion to the opposite side of our body. Filling up the heart from the opposite side, so the top parts of your ventricles. And oh yes, I hear you. Getting lots of oxygenated blood to the brain. And just giving your body a break from being upright all the time. Think about how much of your day you spend with gravity pulling you in the opposite direction. Allow this time to be just a very brief release from that. Letting gravity pull you in the other direction. One more breath here. And release. You can stay there as long as you want. I would actually recommend doing legs up the wall for maybe 10 minutes before you go to bed. It feels really, really great. It has a lot of different benefits. But to go ahead and seal out today, we're going to do one more time, squeezing the knees towards the chest. Maybe giving yourself a couple of rocks side to side. And then gently releasing to your Shavasana. And staying here for as long as you'd like. So we did just hit 7 o'clock. So if you would like to continue in your Shavasana, please feel free, stay as long as you want. But Instagram does kick me off after an hour. So that will be my cue. I hope you all enjoyed this. I am going to do Sunday again at 10 o'clock. Sunday will be an all levels, more introductory class. And then we'll do same schedule as this week, Vinyasa Flow on Monday and Wednesday, Power on Tuesday,
and restorative on Thursday. Please let me know your thoughts. Like I said, this is not really what I would consider my strength when it comes to yoga, so I'm very, very curious if you had any feedback. All right, if you are awake from your Shavasana, namaste. And if you are not, enjoy.